Hi, today I want to talk you through the kind of sharpening that I would do for my tools if they were getting to the point where they were too blunt to prepare by stropping with leather or polishing on a finishing stone. So hopefully you will have seen my previous film on the kind of options for sharpening tools, and also the one about honing or polishing tools on leather. So I'm going to work with the tools we'd normally use. So I've got a diamond stone here, and I've got an agura stone to put a slurry of stone particles onto the diamond stones, which is optional. Don't have to do that, but I like to, so I'm going to. And I also have a water stone here, a finer stone that is currently soaking. Water stones need a pre-soak before you can use them, so that's been in the water for about 20 minutes to get it ready for this demonstration. So the tools I'm going to be using, I'm going to use this set here, which they come in the blue box. If you see my previous film where I discuss the options for cutting tools for lino, I mentioned these. I'm sorry it's got a big white sticker on it. This is one of my students' sets, which is why it's got a label on it. But these are good economy tools, and I would suggest that if you're getting to grips with sharpening, while you're getting your hand in, probably better to practice on cheap tools rather than going straight in with your super duper ones. So first thing I'm going to do is to wet the diamond stone to prepare it. It doesn't need soaking, just needs wetting to get it started. Now I could use it straight away like this, but as I say, I like using the Nagura stone just to put a little slurry of stone particles on it. I'm not sure if it helps or not, but I just like to do that. So there we go. I will need this stone when I work with a water stone. So now that it's ready, I'm going to start with the flat chisel as being sort of quite a straightforward tool. And the bit that I want to work on, like when I was honing and stropping, is the part where the blade tilts. So it's just the beveled bit at the end there. So what I'm going to do is, first thing I need to do is to position it at the right angle to sharpen it. And to do that, I'm going to put my finger on the blade, which is going to hold the tool at an angle. And once it's at the right angle, the trick is to keep it at the right angle, and then I'm going to move it in long strokes up and down the stone. And let me just make sure I've got it right, and then just nice strong long strokes there. When I say strong, that's probably the wrong word to use, because I'm not putting a lot of pressure on. It's just a light pressure. But what you will find, or at least I certainly did when I was learning to sharpen, is that when the blade's in the right position, there's a sort of a sweet spot where it just seems to ride the stone really comfortably. So you will feel when it's at the right angle, and you can just smoothly move it up and down the stone. So a few strokes like that, not too many strokes, a few strokes is enough. And I'm just going to feel a tiny little bevel, a burr, sorry, that I've raised on the blade here on the other side. So I need to take that little burr off. So all I'm going to do is to put the blade the other way up, flat on the side of the stone, and just a couple of strokes like that. Yeah, that's gone. So that's now ready to move on to the next stage. So now I'm going to take the U-shaped blade, and again, it's just where the blade changes angle at the tip of the tool that I'm working on. And what I want is to work the whole of the curve right the way across. So I'm going to come from the side here now and make sure that it's at the right angle. And I'm just going to use two hands and a few strokes. And as I move up and down the stone, I'm just moving that tool from side to side to polish. Now, working this way around, I'm not going to raise a burr on the inside of the tool. If I were working up and down and pushing back and forth, then I might get a burr. If you find that you do get a burr sharpening a tool and you've got a burr on the inside, then if you have one of these angled, I can't think what they're called, I think slipstrop gizmos, then you can actually use that to take the burr off the inside. If you don't have one of those, then you could do what I would do, which would be to use one of my thick belts and a tiny dab of either honing paste or cream scouring cleanser from the kitchen, and just a couple of strokes down the inside of a thick belt will do the job. And it doesn't show if you use the inside of the belt. So that's what I would do there. And now I'm going to use the V tool to sharpen. Now the V tool, if you watched my honing and polishing video, I described it as the most difficult thing to sharpen, and that's simply because you want to keep the profile true. You want to keep the V shape. You don't want to sharpen it into a U or change the angle of the V so that it doesn't cut the lino well. So what I'm going to do is to treat it like two flat chisels. So I'm going to go and get my angle comfortable for the first side, and pretty much like I did with the flat chisel, let's just get that right, yeah, nice long strokes up and down, holding the blade flat at the angle of the bevel. Okay, good stuff. And then I'm going to go to the other side and do exactly the same, take my time and get that angle correct, and then just nice gentle strokes up and down the length of the stone, keeping that angle flat. It takes practice, but what you need is to be able to hold the tool so that the beveled part is held at the right angle, and that angle is maintained for the length of your stroke up and down. So that's why I would suggest you practice with tools that aren't so precious and move on to the precious ones. So now I've done those three on this diamond stone, I'm going to go on to a finer stone, which is our water stone. So let me just move that out of the way. So this now has had a good long soak. It's been in that water for at least half an hour, so it's nice and soaked. And I'm going to put the Nagura stone on it. This stone needs the slurry on it. It needs that stone slurry on it. So I'm just going to work the Nagura stone over it, which is a surprisingly pleasing thing to do. I'm not sure why I enjoy doing that so much, but there we go. So I've got my slurry on there. So back to the chisel, and basically I'm going to do exactly the same thing again. So getting the angle right, and then up and down the stone, and you may be able to see a grey line appearing. That is the metal, and it's just showing where I'm sharpening it. There we go, yeah, that's lovely. And then I'll go and do my U tool, which again, I just take the time to get it at the right angle. And I don't profess to be any expert at this, and if I'm totally honest, this is a job that I pass to Ben as a rule. However, I can do it when I go off on residencies and I have to manage on my own. I can do it. So it just takes a bit of practice. So now V tool, and let me just get the angle correct. Up and down the stone, just gently. I think the thing is to take your time and just practice. There are a lot of videos out there about sharpening, and you know, do have a look at those, but this is how I do it. So there we go, and you can see that grey on the stone where the metal's been. So those are now sharp. I wouldn't polish these on top of that. I wouldn't bother with polishing them on leather before I started cutting, because that stone is fine enough to have polished them to work really well. If you've watched these videos and you think, I don't want to have any part of that and my tools are very precious, you can actually send tools away in the UK to be sharpened. And I know that Lawrence's and Intaglio Printmaker in London, they both offer a service where they can be sent away and beautifully sharpened, and then they'll be returned to you. I think it costs about £3.75 for a tool to be done like that. So yeah, you can pass the job over to somebody else. But to be honest, a bit of practice and it's not that difficult. So thank you for watching this, and we'll be back with the print in another video.